The topic of the TED Talk was on adolescent brain and the mysterious workings of them, in comparison to adult and childhood brains. The TED Talk was presented by Sarah Jane Blakemore, and this project presented by Emily Wilson. Who was the speaker? Sarah Jane Blakemore is 47 years old, working as professor of psychology at the University of Cambridge, located in the United Kingdom. As a professor in this department, she is interested in research surrounding the adolescent brain development, social cognition, cognitive control, and decision-making. And she also is interested in why adolescent brains work the way they do. The investment in research made her the leader of the Development Cognitive Neuroscience Group, and the group conducts labs focusing mainly on behavioral studies. Lastly, Sarah Blakemore has also written a book called The Secret Life of the Teenage Brain, and this is also what the TED Talk was focused on. Why did I choose this TED Talk? I chose this TED Talk due to my interest surrounding neuroscience, and as an adolescent myself, I'm interested in to learn why I make the decisions I do. The lecture 5 we did in class grabbed my attention surrounding the brain, and I decided I wanted to further my knowledge on this topic. Since the main focus was on the mysterious workings of the brain, I was curious to see how much I already knew from class, and how much more in detail the TED Talk would be, and how much I would take away from it. Overall, neuroscience is a study that I find fascinating, and since the lecture on adolescence was my favorite, I wanted to further the current knowledge I held. So the 3 essential ideas. I broke the essential ideas surrounding this TED Talk on adolescent brain into 3 different aspects, because I found these 3 aspects the most important. Number 1, adolescence. Number 2, the prefrontal cortex. And number 3, the social-emotional response. What is adolescence? The first central idea is how adolescence is defined as a stage throughout human life that commences with biological, hormonal, and physical changes of puberty, and stops when an individual is developed and ready to take on a stable, independent role in society. What is the prefrontal cortex? The prefrontal cortex is a part of the frontal lobe located at the front of the brain and is changed drastically during adolescence and is not fully developed until adulthood. The prefrontal cortex is used for high cognitive level functions such as decision-making, planning, inhibiting inappropriate behavior, social interactions, self-awareness, and etc. What is a social-emotional response? A social-emotional response is an automatic and instinctive response that's more relied on in adolescent years. A quick, easy example of social-emotional response is if we were to look at the photo on the right. We can see that the blue team is happy and the red team is not, through the gestures and facial expressions they are demonstrating. Because perhaps maybe the blue team just scored a goal. This is an example, an easy example, of the social-emotional response. How does this TED Talk relate to CHYS F190? This TED Talk is related to Lecture 5, which focuses on adolescence and the workings of the adolescent brain, and also the Steinberg readings within CHYS 1F90, which were redefining adolescence and peer influences on the adolescent decision-making. Within the TED Talk and CHYS 1F90, both focus on how the prefrontal cortex is underdeveloped in adolescence and how this age group relies more on making decisions to provoke positive emotional responses because it creates a heightened reward-like sensation. This adolescent stage is where teenagers take more risks than adults, and children as well, due to the drive to impress friends and feel that social-emotional response. What did I learn? Why is it relevant? I learned about gray matter and the limbic system. Gray matter. I learned that gray matter contains most of the neuronal cell bodies and includes a region of brain where the muscle control and sensory perception is located. Beyond the definition, I also learned that there is a significant decline in this matter volume in the prefrontal cortex, which is a good thing and is important for the brain development process. This is relevant because it contains cell bodies and connections between cells, which enables individuals to control movement, memory, and emotions. And the diagram at the bottom right kind of shows how gray matter changes over time, and that's actually a good thing. And the dark blue is representing the the low gray matter. The limbic system. I learned that the limbic system is involved in things such as emotion processing and reward processing. It is located deep inside the brain, and adolescents use the system to contribute to making decisions out of having fun and trying to be risk takers because it gives them a kind of kick feeling. This is relevant as it is an important aspect of how teenagers make the most of their decisions due to the underdeveloped prefrontal cortex. In CHYS 1F90, Lecture 5, it discussed that adolescents make decisions due to the heightened risk-taking because of the easily aroused reward system we have, which connects to what the limbic system is within the brain. Lastly, I learned a new fact. So 40% of teens don't have access to secondary education. But why does this matter? This fact from the TED Talk is an issue because the brain is most adaptable and has the best opportunity for learning and creativity throughout the adolescent stage. The environment teenagers grow up in and the school environment they attend greatly shapes how the adolescent brain develops.